All right, we're gonna pick up where we left off yesterday. More 7.1. On substitution. More substitution. I'm going to jump right into an example. This example is slightly different than the ones that we were working on yesterday. We have negative 2x plus y is equal to negative 5, and then we've got this going on too. X squared plus y squared is equal to 25. So what's different about these than the ones we talked about yesterday? We've got some x squared going on there. So, all right, now just an FYI to you guys, there might be more than one point of intersection. In fact, I know that this second equation, x squared plus y squared equals 25, that is a circle. And then this right here is a line. So if you have a circle.
Is it a circle because the x and y are squared?
Yes. Yep. When you have a circle and a line, there's a very, very good chance that that circle and that line can intersect in 2 points. So you could have two x's and corresponding
Would they
lines.
not if it only touched the perimeter of it? Or
Yep. And if it could happen that you could have a circle and like a line up here, they only intersect in one spot. By the way, what is that called? When the line only touches the circle in one spot?
the line only
Tangent.
Tangent, the tangent line. We talked about that. We should have talked about that in Algebra 2 last year. So, all right. So we have negative 2x plus y equals negative 5. X squared plus y squared equals 25. What? Any suggestions? And we're going to kind of start this off the same way that we did yesterday. There's just a little bit more algebra involved here. What would you solve for? What would be the easiest variable to solve for? The top one for y.
Because it's not squared.
Because it's not squared, and there's also nothing in front of it. There's no number in front of the y. So we have negative 2x plus y is equal to negative 5. I'm going to add 2x to each side. So y is equal to negative 5 plus 2x. Now I'm going to take this y value and I'm going to plug it back into the y in the second equation. So I'm going to do a rewrite of the first equation, x squared plus, instead of writing y, I'm going to write what we came up with for y. And we came up with the fact that y is negative 5 plus 2x. Notice my use of the parentheses. Yep, make sure you put a square outside of the parentheses. You don't put the parentheses there. The only thing that's being squared would be that x next to the 2. So make sure you do the parentheses is equal to 25. Now we need to go through and figure out what is x. So negative 5 plus 2x, this always scares me, even though you guys should know what to do. Negative 5 plus 2x squared.
Foil it.
You gotta FOIL it. So I'm gonna flip pages here. I will go back to this page in just a minute. But negative 5 plus 2x squared. That really means negative 5 plus 2x times negative 5 plus 2x, and you have to FOIL it. So, negative 5 times negative 5. In other words, first term times first term gets you 25.
Minus 10x.
Negative 5 times 2x is negative 10x. 2x times negative 5 is another negative 10x. And 2x times 2x is a positive 4x squared. Collect like terms, we get 25 minus 20x plus 4x squared.
Good job.
I went through that quickly, but I feel like you guys should be comfortable enough with this that you could follow along. I also wanted to make a special point to do it like that because still people think that when you have a quantity squared, the only thing you do is square the first term and square the second term, but that's not true. All right, so we have 25 minus 20x plus 4x squared. I'm going to flip back to the front page here. The first page, so we have x squared plus 25 minus that. What was that middle term? 20x would have a 4x squared at the end is equal to 0 to 25. Collect like terms. What can we add together here?
X squared and 4x squared.
So we've got 5x squared. Add those together. I have a minus 20x. And I have a plus 25 equals 25. Now, one thing that I notice I could do is I have a 25 on each side of the equation. So I could just get rid of this 25, subtract it from both sides. That is going to leave me with 5x squared. Now, this is not the only way that you can do this. 5x squared minus 20x is equal to what?
0.
Yeah, it's equal to nothing. Everyone caught up on writing right now?
Yeah.
I'm gonna flip to a new screen again.
What's in that one?
What do you think? Yes.
Poop.
So 5x squared minus 20x equals 0. All right, what can I do now? We gotta solve for x. What could I do? What could I do? What could I do?
Add 20x.
We could add 20x. We
You
could
take out a 5x.
We could factor out a 5x. I
We
like
should
that
do that.
idea more. Your way.
Be longer.
What are you looking at?
Okay, so I'm going to factor out a 5x. They both have an x in common. They're both divisible by 5. So I factor out a 5x, leaving me with x what? Minus 4 equals 0. So what could x be? X could be, look at this part right here, 5x. Imagine that equal to 0. What would the x value have to be? Have to be 0. What about this one? X minus 4 equals 0. X equals 4. So we could have 0, we could have 4.
But we don't.
So now what we need to do is go back to the original situation, this thing right here, where we have y equals negative 5 plus 2x. And we're going to take both of those x's, plug it back into this equation, and figure out what y is. So I am going to rewrite this. We have y equals, was it negative 5 plus 2x, you guys?
Yep.
Negative 5 plus 2x. All right, so what we're going to do is take this 0, we're going to plug it in there. So in this case, y could be negative 5 plus 2 times 0. What does that mean?
Negative 5.
Negative 5. And then in this situation, we would have y equals negative 5 plus 2 times 4. So y is equal to... So my two solutions then are 0, comma, negative 5. And then the other solution would be 4, comma, 3.
4?
So with the x squared, there's 4 answers. I mean, total.
Two answers.
Two
Yep.
pairs.
Yep. Unless there is a situation where it only crosses the circle in one spot, and I wouldn't be able to come up with an example right off the top of my head,
Alright.
but that may happen too. All right, I have one more example,
No.
and then I'm done. So, okay.
What's that?
Can I flip? Can I give you one more example? You guys ready for a new
Yeah.
page?
Yes.
All right.
Yes. Bye.
X plus y equals 0, and x cubed minus 5x minus y equals 0.
Wow.
I don't like this one. Oh,
This is hard.
Oh, you don't like this one?
I don't think she asked.
Okay, what can I do? What can I solve for?
The top.
The top one, what am I going to solve for?
Either.
Well, you know, it probably, actually it does matter in this case which variable you solve for, because if you look at the second equation, everything is in terms of
Let's
x
solve for y.
except for that y. So what should we solve for in the first equation? Solve for y.
Why?
Yeah, but why?
Why?
Why would we solve for y when we can just y our way out of it? Like why?
So x plus y equals 0.
Something
Solve
like
for y by subtracting x. So y is equal to negative x.
prove it.
Yeah.
I'm confused because I would think the easiest way would just be to plug in numbers for those x's so you don't have to deal with like the cubed and everything. Why can't
Yeah.
you say y would be easier?
Why you gotta do that?
You're going to see.
So are you saying guess and check?
Yes.
That's
Well,
fine.
Guess and check.
I don't know. You said solving for y would be easier, but I don't understand how.
Because if x was 14,
Because then you would just have numerical values, and then it would be a lot easier than trying to deal with the x cubed and everything, and then factoring out x's and.
I'm gonna try it your way. So let's do x plus y equals 0, and I'm gonna subtract y. So x is equal to negative y. So now I'm gonna take this x value and plug it in here, and you are gonna end up with, instead of an x, you are gonna have negative y cubed. It's kind of looking like it doesn't really matter which way. Minus 5 times x again is negative y. Minus y is equal to 0. My thought was if we solve for y, I only have to substitute this y into the second equation one time. Here we had to substitute twice. Totally doable. Okay, in fact, we can keep going with this if you guys want to.
might as well.
Isn't it
It's already
Right.
the
the
same.
same thing if you do? No, I guess not.
So
Never mind.
you do plus 5. Well, no,
So
plus
what
4y.
is negative y cubed?
Negative y.
Negative y cubed, what is that?
Adding the area together.
Negative y cubed means negative y times negative y times negative y. What is a negative times a negative?
Positive.
Positive. And then a positive times a negative is going to be a negative. So we would have negative y cubed here. Now we have a negative 5 times a negative y, which is a
Positive.
positive 5y minus y is equal to 0.
That is 4y.
So we have negative y cubed, 5y minus y is 4y is equal to 0.
Yeah.
Well, what can I
You could take out a y.
factor out now? You could factor out a y.
Yeah.
So, and I'm actually think at this point I'm going to factor out
Negative
a
y.
negative y. Then I can get rid of that negative out in front of our term that has the highest degree. So if I factor out a negative y, what is that going to leave me with?
Y squared
Y squared
minus 4.
minus 4. Very nice. Y squared minus 4. Because remember, if I distribute that negative y that I pulled out front, if I distribute it into the parentheses, I would get negative y cubed plus 4y. Alright, so this is equal to 0.
Yep.
So that means negative y could be 0. Negative y could be 0. It also means that y squared minus 4 could be 0. So if negative y is 0, what does that mean about y? Y is 0. What about this? You could factor it if you wanted to, but probably the quickest, easiest way to do this would just be to add 4 to each side
And square root it.
and then square root it. So y squared is equal to 4.
Y is
Square
equal
root
to
of each
2.
side. So y is equal to positive and negative 2.
That's wise.
So 3 choices. We could have 0. We could have. Can you stop, please?
What?
You could have 0. You could have a positive or a negative 2. Now you got to go back and figure out what x is. So now we have the y value. We're finding the number in front of it for the ordered pair. So x is equal to, by the way, the opposite of y. So whatever you have for y over there, what's the x value that's going to go with it? So if we go with y value, the y value being 2, what's the x value?
-2.
Very good. Yep, it's exactly the opposite. It says the x value is equal to the opposite of the y value. So if you have a y value of 2, what number goes right in front of it? The opposite of it. If you have a y value of -2, a +2. What about 0? You have 0, what does that mean?
0.
Yep. The opposite of 0 is 0.
-0.
Oh my god.
It's so crazy.
Again,
Looks
you
like a
could
little
have
ways.
you could have went through this by solving for y instead. Brianna.
Why are there 3 answers? Like, I don't get how you just got that at all.
Is that because there's a cube? There's
Like,
gonna
I
be
don't
3?
know why there's 3.
If you were to graph this thing, it's a cubic graph, and if you recall back from when we were talking about polynomials, the graph may look something like this, and then you are comparing it to a line. And a line, and this graph is not at all what that graph would look like, but a line could potentially cross a cubic graph in 3 places. One's right here, one's right here, one's right here.
But where did the 0 from this?
Okay, so did you follow me
Yeah, I was
through
trying to.
here, like up to here? Did you follow me through here, where we got to -y times y squared minus 4? Okay, so that means if you multiplied -y times y squared minus 4, and we know that that equals 0, that means this part right here has to be 0. So I said, okay, well, -y has to be 0, which means y is 0. Or it means that y squared minus 4, y squared minus 4 is 0. So I had to put each one of these factors equal to 0, and then I solve for y individually. So y squared minus 4 equals 0. Add 4 to each side. So y squared is equal to 4. Take the square root of 4, you get 2 and -2. So those were my 3 y values. And then I just had to go back and figure out what x value goes with it. And it says right here that the x value is exactly the opposite of the y value. So they're the same numbers, they're just exact opposites of each other. Alright, your assignment is already on the board, and the answer key is posted to, it's not terribly long, but it's going to be problems like this. Maybe not all of them, but some of them are going to be like this. Okay?